Hey y'all, Grandma Rose here. I am sitting here in my craft room knitting on a pair of socks. And I just thought you might like to see the socks that I've already knit. What do you think? I have done a video about showing my sock drawer and showing all of my socks. And I thought you might like to see the socks that are already in my drawer and why I really don't need to knit any more socks. But you know, you cannot have enough socks. You cannot have enough hand-knitted socks. You can have a pair of hand-knitted socks to go with every item of clothing that you have in your wardrobe. Have a pair of brown socks and blue socks and red socks and pink socks and green socks and gray socks and all the different colors. I didn't mention yellow and purple and I don't know, and then stripes. You can have stripes of every color and you can have variegations, and it's fun. It becomes an obsession. And I know people who are really obsessed with it. And there are contests like who can knit the most socks in the year, or some of the people who dye yarn have contests, and so that's a good contest. So you know they'll have how many people will knit the socks, and then they'll draw a name, and then somebody at the end of the year will get a free skein of yarn, and that's nothing to sneeze at. Usually these designer yarns are like $25 for a skein of yarn. So when you see somebody that has 30 pairs of socks in their drawer, you know that this isn't like 30 pairs of socks that you go and buy at Walmart. This is fun, and I want to show you my socks, so let me bring you along with me. I'm going to go into my bedroom. We're going to open up my wardrobe and pull out the drawer that has my socks in it. I'm going to dump them out on the bed, and then I will show you my socks, and I hope you enjoy it. That right there is my sock drawer. That's the nice thing about these wire drawers like this. You can just pull them out and it becomes a basket. So looking in here, these are my socks. I'm going to put something on top of this afghan because that's distracting. I want you to be able to see the socks in all their glory. Okay, now you can see the socks. This is actually just some of the socks. Some back here. That was a single sock. I found the other one. So these are the socks that were in my drawer over the summer. And I had left the other socks in the dirty clothes with my winter clothes that I didn't. What was the point of washing them if I wasn't going to wear them? Well, that was, you know, this is me. This is Grandma Rose. I don't always do things that I should be doing. I'm lazy sometimes. But not lazy, I just wanted to do something else besides washing clothes and putting away winter clothes. So putting away winter clothes for me was leaving them in the dirty clothes basket. Bump. I just dumped out what was in this clothes basket. That many more socks. All right, y'all. We have the socks on the bed. Now, as you see, they've got pills. These are all wool socks. I don't think. Well, they're not all entirely wool socks. Most of them are a blend of wool and nylon, and that makes them wear better. So let me see. Let's put these together. Match the socks is what I need to do to put them away. This sock right here, when I washed it, I can't find the mate to it. So I cannot find the mate to that sock. It's probably under the bed. I just haven't found it yet. But one of these days, when I clean up from under my bed, I might find it. Also, the dog might have eaten it too, and that's entirely likely. So there's one sock. And I remember buying this yarn when I was out in Houston visiting my daughter. Okay. This is another pair of socks. The pair. It has pretty wool on the top and bottom with contrasting toes, heels, and cuff. I like these too. Fold these up. So here's another pair of socks. And this is a pattern that I actually came up with. These socks, the name I made for these socks are the Naturalist socks, after Henry David Thoreau. These are naturalist socks. And it's a pattern on my Ravelry store. Okay, here's another pair of socks. Well, each of these is a pair of socks, so I don't need to keep saying that. And they've all got fuzz and dog hair and pills and all kind of stuff on them, and I can pick them off or I can just leave them be for right now. And I like the pattern that I did on this one. It's a pretty, you can see, if you look at it, put my hand inside it, you can see that it's a lace pattern. You see that? It's a pretty lace pattern on those. This pair right here has a good cotton content. It's not entirely wool. It has some wool, but it has a lot of cotton also. So I can wear these into the spring when it's starting to get warm and they're not quite as hot on my feet. I remember knitting these when I was at my daughter's house at Christmas. Okay. And these have lots of pills on them. These have a alpaca content in them that makes them fuzzier. And this yarn I got from the company called Knit Picks, and I like these a lot. But they do have an alpaca content, which makes them really, really warm in the winter. I love to wear these on a really cold day in the winter. Let's see. Another pair. And I remember ordering these online from an indie dyer. I think she has an Etsy shop, and I bought these from the lady's Etsy shop. I like those. I don't have a whole lot of green socks, and I need some more. Okay, so this one, and this one. This is yarn that my daughter gave me for Christmas, and it has a cashmere content. It's wool and nylon and cashmere. Oh man, merino wool, nylon and cashmere. They call this MCN. Merino cashmere nylon, and it's wonderful. Oh, they're so soft. And again, a little lace pattern, little eyelet pattern in those. Now, these socks right here, this was one of the first pair of socks that I ever knit. One of the first pair of socks I ever knit, and I put cables on it. Look at that. There's a cable, a kind of a complex cable going down the front of that. Ribbing, all ribbing, except a cable down the middle. Fold that up, put these over here. And here's another pair of socks that have some alpaca content in them. I mean, and this stuff really, as warm as it is, it really gets lots of pills on it, and it catches all the pet hair and everything, and it looks horrible. But they're incredibly warm, and I love them. I remember buying this yarn also when I was out in Houston visiting my daughter. The same time, the same day that I bought this, I remember buying these two yarns. See, that's the thing about knitting your own socks. Not only do you get to knit them, but then you remember where you were and what you were doing when you did it. So put that over there. This one is not going to have a mate. But you know what I'm going to do right now? If you remember, I had this sock right here that I didn't have a mate for it. Well, when I wash these, here's the match to it. And these also have a good bit of cotton content in them. So they're nice to wear in the summertime too, or in the spring going on summer. They're pretty. I like these. Now what else do I have? I love these pink socks, but look at this. I had them on in blue suede shoes, and the shoes got wet, and now I've got a blue striped dot on these, on both of them. But that's okay. That's going to be inside my shoe. Nobody's ever going to see that. And they're pretty pink socks with a lace pattern. Again, see, there's a pretty lace pattern. These are some more knit picks yarn. And I'm going to go back in a minute and show you something. So this is some more of the knit picks yarn that has some alpaca in it. Extremely warm socks, and these would be good to wear on St. Patrick's Day. Bright green. And again, a lace pattern. You can see it. I like lace patterns on my socks. Believe it or not, the holes in the lace don't make them cold. They're still just as warm as they can be, even if they have a design in them. Now let me see. I saw something else I wanted to show you. These socks right here. I'm going to again pull this sock and this one. These two, we're going to go on that in a minute. These two socks and this one. This yarn was dyed. This is also an indie dyed yarn from a seller on Etsy, and she no longer sells her yarn anymore. But this was my first time that I've ever knit with speckled yarn. And if you look at this, you can see that it's got the color, but it's also got these gray specks, gray and orange, and different color specks all through it. And it's very, very random. And it makes a pretty pattern. So this one was gray, basically a gray pattern. And this one was more of a pinkish, still a gray, but the specks in it were different. This has more of a maroon and gold specks in it, which is why I put that color on the heel and toe. Put those out of the way. And this one is pink. Now I made these I actually made for Halloween. Pink socks for Halloween. But they're also speckled. And if you look at the pattern up here, the lace pattern on these, that it looks like pumpkins stacked on top of each other. And you see the pumpkins? So I think the name of the pattern was Little Pumpkins or something like that. And so the name of the yarn, the people who dye their own yarn usually give their yarn names, and they'll name it after something. And this was Nola, N-O-L-A, like New Orleans, Louisiana. So I call these my Nola pumpkins, New Orleans pumpkins. And New Orleans pumpkins don't have to be orange, do they? They could be any color they want to be. So there we go. Here's my Nola pumpkin socks that I knit for Halloween. And all these yarns were dyed by the same lady. Let's do some other ones. These orange socks I knit for Halloween another year, because you know you have to have orange socks for Halloween, but they'd work just as well for Thanksgiving. Now I bought this yarn from a lady in Australia. Online, she had an Etsy shop. And I bought this yarn from this lady in Australia. So I forgot the name of it, but someone thought they looked like snakes, zigzagging up the socks, and you wouldn't even look at them because she thought they looked like snakes. I don't think they look like snakes, do you? They just look like zigzags to me. A pretty stitch, zigzag stitch. Those away. And here's some more socks. And as you see, they all have pills, and they are clean. They have been washed, but it's wool, and it picks up pills, and that's what it looks like. And this was from another company online. I don't believe any of these, only maybe one or two of the pairs that I have I bought the yarn at a yarn shop. And I only have 2 or 3 pairs that I bought at a hobby store, and I'll show you those in a minute. So, actually one of them are the socks that I have on. So I guess I can show you my feet and you can see the ones that I have on, because that's also hobby store yarn. But they're all so wonderfully soft. They're merino wool with a nylon content, and they feel wonderful on your feet. Okay, here's another one. This is some more yarn. Third ball of yarn that I bought that Christmas when I was out visiting my daughter. And I bought the yarn that I mentioned the other two socks were made out of. So this is the third ball of yarn that I bought to knit socks while I was out visiting my daughter out in Houston. Another pair of pretty socks. Kind of a raisin color. Just a pretty bluey purple raisin color. Merlot, what color would you call that? It's just a kind of a dark wine raisin. I'd call it raisin. That pretty socks again. Again, lace. Almost all of these have lace. I've gotten kind of away from this and I'm knitting more plain socks now than I used to. Because I've knit all of these that have the beautiful lace patterns. And now I just want to get on with knitting the socks. So one more pair. This is another pair from an indie dyer. Look at these. Look at the cable in this, or the cable's up the middle. Can you see that? Let me put my hand in there. Maybe you can see it better. Do it upside down. It's easier. A cable is a cable. Look at that. Can you see that? The pretty pattern. I like that one. These are my tiger socks. Another Halloween sock. But just because they're black and orange doesn't mean that you only wear them in the fall, right? Okay, what else do I have? Oh, here's another pair of indie dyed, and this is all by people. These are individuals who have a small business in their home, and they're dyeing yarn to sell as a small business, and most of them have Etsy shops. Familiar with Etsy shops? So I like those. Those are pretty. Again. Now, this pair right here, this is my craft store yarn. And aren't they beautiful? But these are really heavy, thick wool. It's actually the same weight as the other wool, but when they knit up, they're heavier. And this is another pair of socks that I wear in the dead of winter when it is really, really frosty cold outside. They're almost too warm to wear at other times. This yarn is Patton's Croy. If you're a knitter or crocheter, you may be familiar with Patton's yarn. And this Croy, there's a cat, that looks like a cat whisker. I think that's a cat whisker. Patton's Croy, and Croy is their Patton's brand of sock yarn. And if you look at these, they don't match. They're fraternal. That has the same colors in them, but the colors don't line up the same way. And I can't even find anywhere in here that if I move them up and down, that I can find a place where they match up. Maybe not even down in here. So they've used basically just the same colors of dye when they dyed this yarn, and you can tell that they go together, but they don't match up. So the stripes on these don't line up on your feet, but that doesn't bother me. So there's these. So I have folded all of these that I dumped out of the laundry basket. Move all of these out of the way because I want to show you the ones that were already in the drawer. Now this is a pair of socks that I knit with actually this is yarn that is produced commercially. This is self-striping. It looks like a Fair Isle pattern, but actually this pattern is built into the socks. And it looks like what I did here is I took a turquoise yarn, like I did the other ones with that gold color heel, toe, and cuff, and put a turquoise cuff, heel, and toe on these with this striping pattern that is built into the socks. And I love these. So there's one pair of socks. I'll just take these all out of the basket, one at a time. It's another pair, but the Indy died. So I bought these, and this is a pair that I had to repair. There was a hole up at the top. You can see that, where I patched that hole. Didn't do a very good job of it. It looks like I need to patch the hole again. Those threads are coming loose as I launder it, so I need to go back in here and tuck those threads back in there to keep that hole from getting bigger again. So this is just a pretty pattern. I like these. Move these out of the way. Another pretty pair of turquoise socks. Seems like I have a lot of turquoise socks. This yarn right here is made by the same company that made this yarn. It's actually basically the yarn itself has the same feel to it, but it's just dyed differently. And a different pattern. And these have green and gray stripes on them. I like those. Another one of the first pair of socks that I knit. Plain red socks. And if you look up here on the cuff, they've got lace hearts. You see the lace hearts? These are my Valentine socks. Have to have a pair of red socks for Valentine's Day, right? Middle of February, you're still wearing lots of wool. So these are my red wool socks for Valentine's Day. It's another pair of socks. And again, this is yarn that I bought when I was out in Houston visiting my daughter. So these I knitted top down, from the top down to the toe, and I ran out of yarn and I couldn't finish them, so I put orange toes on them. And look at the heels, where I've mended the heels because I wore the heels out on these. But they have been darned and I can still wear them. And these are really, really warm too. These are actually, instead of being a sock weight, this is called a sport weight, which is a little bit heavier than sock weight. Not a lot, but a little bit heavier. So these are good winter socks also. And cables all over the place. Look at this. Cable after cable after cable. These took a while to do, but they were fun. And I love these rainbow colors in this. Aren't they pretty? I like that. And one interesting thing is the way the colors that I liked about it is, you see on here, I don't know if you can tell this. You see how the way the colors kind of striped? They spiraled around the sock as I was knitting it. But when I got to the bottom of the foot, it just kind of made it's called pooling. It pooled in the middle of the bottom of my foot and made this big swish zigzag point. I kind of wish it had done it on the top. But, well, it did, but on the top, instead of being this pretty orangey color, it's the blue. So it did pool on the top. It just pooled blue instead of the orange. Same thing on this one. Blue on the top and the pinky orange on the bottom with that swish on it. And I found out later on what caused that. Now, I don't need to go into that now. But if you ever have something like that happen to you and you wonder what's going on, ask me and I'll tell you. So there's those. I finished those. These socks are a pair of socks that this is the most recent pair of socks that I finished. I just finished these and I've only worn them one time. And this is yarn that I dyed myself. I bought white yarn, or a natural color yarn, from a company, and then I used Kool-Aid to dye it. So I was going for a purple, and I could not come up with the purple color that I wanted. So I started with grape Kool-Aid, and it turned out it was red. It was a maroon color rather than the purple that I was looking for. What I wanted was more of a blue purple rather than a red purple. So, in order to get what I was hoping to get, the blue purple, I added blue Kool-Aid. So like berry blue or something like that. And do you see all these blue pops in it? See all the blue? So instead of giving me purple yarn, what I ended up with was variegated yarn that when it was knit up, it knit up purple, or a kind of a Concord grape purple and blue. And I love them. They're wonderful. And I dye these with Kool-Aid. Really easy to do. We'll talk about dyeing this, doing different kinds of dyeing in another video. Okay. These socks. Gray and black striped socks. Again, these have a really high cashmere content in them. And I see a hole right here that I need to fix. Look at this. There's a hole. I need to leave these out and repair these. So after I show these to you, I will leave them out and make the repair in them, because that's going to get bigger if I don't fix it pretty quickly. Fix these. Now I'm going to show you this pattern in a minute. I'm leaving these socks for the last. So I'm going to leave these aside. Like I said, these have a cashmere content. The name of the yarn was I Love Fred. Does that look like I Love Fred? Well, it was dyed because there was a lady who had a podcast online that had a cat that used to climb all over her named Fred. The cat was black and white. So when the yarn was dyed, it was black and white stripes, and every so often there was a stripe of pink. Well, the pink was for the cat's nose and the paws of his feet. So black and white and pink socks. Well, after they were washed, the black dye ran, and it dyed all of it gray, and you can hardly even see that there's any pink in there at all. But they're still good socks, and they're warm. And I'm going to leave these aside because I need to repair that. Let's see. I've got three other socks to show you. And then I'll show you the other ones. This is another pair of Knit Picks. I mentioned Knit Picks yarn. And this one, I think the colorway was called Watermelon. And as you see the watermelon, you see the red and green and black and pink for the watermelon. These socks are just plain green, solid green. And this is also Knit Picks yarn, the same company. But it's got down one side of the sock. You see the other side is plain. Down one side of the sock is a cable with a pretty seed stitch pattern down the cable. And the other sock matches it, but it's opposite. You see that? So when you put them on, you can either put the cable running down the inside of your leg or the outside of your leg, depending on how you feel that day. Now, this yarn, I'm pretty sure this is also Knit Picks. I can't remember because I have two that are striped like this. But this yarn is a striped yarn, and I believe it's Knit Picks. It's a brand from Knit Picks called Felici, and it has more nylon in it than the other ones. But they hold up really, really well. And again, there's that same cable down the front, but these were designed by one of my friends. The name of this pattern is called Socks on a Plane. And the pattern was designed by a friend of mine called Laura Linneman. If you're a knitter and you watch the Knit Girls have had a podcast for several years. The Knit Girls podcast, this is Laura from the Knit Girls who designed these socks. So these are striped socks. Love these striped socks. And then I have another pair of striped socks. Now this is what I want to get into. All these four pairs of socks are knit from the same pattern, but they look different because of the yarn. And if you notice, they're all striped too. Now this is also striped yarn, self-striping, where it stripes in a rainbow. But this is just a different pattern, a different company. In fact, I believe this was an indie dyed yarn from one of the ladies that has a shop on Etsy. And it's not easy to get this striping yarn. And when I knit these, I was careful, and I actually lined up. Look what I did. I made them where they're perfectly matching. You see that? Okay. Now I want you to look at this design on these. You see this pattern on here? Can you see that pattern? This is the same pattern that I used when I knit these. It looks different because it's different yarn, but it's the same pattern. Easy, easy. Here's another pair. This is again Knit Picks Felice, like that other yarn that I showed you. In this same pattern. Also Felice, self-striping, and it's exactly the same pattern. These are knit a little bit differently. The heel is different on these. But it's the same knitting pattern. And these are the last ones I want to show you. This is also Knit Picks Felice yarn. Pretty blues and greens and soft blues and greens. The same pattern. Well, let me tell you, the name of the pattern is called Vanilla Latte. And Vanilla Latte is a pattern that I designed. And you can find it on Etsy. If you're a sock knitter, it's a free pattern on Etsy. And I designed this pattern. So I've knit four different pairs of socks using this pattern. And they're all the same. You see, these two socks also, I was careful, and when I knit them, I made them line up. These match up, and these match up. I was doing good when I did this. Very careful to make them line up. That's one of the things about Felice that is good. Instead of having one skein of yarn to knit two socks, you have to buy two skeins of yarn to knit the pair of socks. But the yarn starts at the same spot. So when they've dyed it and when they've wound it up, they have started and stopped at the same spot. So that's why these are lining up so well, was because the yarn was designed to do that. I don't know if I did the same thing on these or not. No, look at these. See, this was an indie dyed yarn with stuff on it that was dyed. It was in one ball of yarn, and you can see that they start differently, but they're all the same pattern. And if you are a knitter, and if you have ever knit a pair of socks, and if you are familiar with the Vanilla Latte sock pattern, go back to your pattern page and look at it. Because this is the original pair of socks, the Vanilla Latte socks that I designed, and these are the socks that are on the pattern page. So I'm a knitter with a capital K. I'd almost say knitter with a capital N, but no, I'm a knitter with a capital K, and I'm a knitwear designer. And that's something that you also didn't know about me. So here's my sock shawl. I think I have enough, and I keep knitting more. Oh, I did not show you the socks that I have on. Let me see. I think maybe what I need to do is take off the socks rather than put my foot up on the bed. Let me take off this sock. And I've got another sock to show you too. Okay. There's my Vanilla Lattes. This sock is the same company that made, where are they? The big heavy socks, these socks. They've been washed, but they're not as heavy as these, so I don't know what it was about this yarn itself that made these so much heavier. Now these socks are plain on one side, but if you turn them over, there's a cable down this side, but instead of just a regular cable, it zigzags down the side of the foot, and the other one matches it, and it's a mirror image of it. And the name of this pattern is called Zigzagular, the Zigzagular socks. I don't think it's a free pattern, but it was designed by a lady called Susie White, and she and a friend of hers have a podcast called Prairie Girls, I believe. I don't know if they still have the podcast going on, but Susie White was one of the Prairie Girls. So these socks. This is the one that I'm wearing. What I'm getting ready to show you is one that I can't wear anymore. Actually, I've used it to polish my furniture. It smells like furniture wax, furniture polish. Beautiful socks. Look at this. Put my hand in here. That pretty leaf pattern on here. And this, I bought this yarn at the same time as about that other yarn when I was in Houston with my daughter at a different store. And this is the right weight yarn to knit for socks. It's fingering weight yarn or sock weight yarn. However, it did not have any nylon content. And I forgot what it was in it, but I wore them one season and got holes in them. Completely wore them out. One of them was just completely torn up. And so I've saved the second sock and I use it as a dusting rag or to polish furniture. Good use for a single sock. If you ever have a single sock, that's a good thing to do with it. Save it to use as a dust cloth. That's all my socks, y'all. You think I've got enough? Bye, y'all. See you next time. I hope you enjoyed seeing my socks.